What's the key to trading well?
The key, first of all, is actually discipline. You have to be very, very disciplined. You have to know what to trade in. It's not that you'll be jack of all trades. No, you must choose what do you really want to do for your life. And then you pick up and concentrate on that. And then pleasure and business, they don't mix at all. Okay. And that is the kind of discipline that I got. My grandfather used to start working from 6 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And he worked till, late. Had a very simple life. Some days he drive himself. That is how simple that, he was. Very disciplined, honest person. I actually took a lot of things from him.
What did you take from him?
First of all, to be very honest, to make sure that you are fair to everybody, to be also generous. He was very generous. To tell you how generous he was, he gave out all his assets and money before he passed. Wow. So when you look at the business, for example, today, right? Why is it that people see that I work so hard? Do you know why? Because my business is actually my hobby. Yeah. I take my business as a hobby. Because if I take it as a job, I won't work this hard.
How hard do you work?
I work, let me give you an example. I go to bed maybe sometimes 11, 12, but I wake up around 5 in the morning. I go to the gym. By 7:30, 8, I'm done. Then I go to my office and I work as hard as any staff. Let me tell you something, Nicola. For example, when I decided to go into industry, you know what I did? I sold all my properties in the US. I had 2 houses in the US, big mansions, and I had a house in UK. And I wanted to really sit in Nigeria and concentrate. Why? Sometimes when you own a house, a holiday home, anywhere, you have to create that time to go and use that property. So now my life is very simple. Wherever I go, I use hotels, I pay. When I leave, nobody will call me and say I have a burst pipe or something is wrong. So I'm committed to what I do. And I just don't do things off-head. I always create a vision. It's just like now we created a Vision 2030 so that I know I have a target to meet. Mm-hmm. I just don't do business on a normal, no. All my businesses, they are targeted.
How do you decide which businesses to be in?
Well, I first of all look at what do we need as people. Mm. What is it that we're supposed to be producing and we're importing? So we do what you call backward integration, which means what we are importing now, we produce it. We produce what we need. And we are now producing things that when you wake up as a human being, every morning you must use part of what we produce.
So that's like cement, sugar.
We do cement.
But you have
sugar,
also tried flour and you tried textile and you exited that.
I exited that, yes. Yeah. Because of the foreign exchange challenges, that is why we left the flour, mill. But today, we are very, very good in terms of exports. If you look at it now, part of what we are announcing is that when you invest in any of our business, going forward in the cement, for example, in the refinery, in the petrochemical, in the fertilizer, in the port, we guarantee to pay you dividend in dollars because we're very well into exports. 80% of our revenue will be in dollars. So that is why we are now saying that, look, yes, you can have a choice if you want. For locals, we can pay you in Naira. If you don't want Naira, we want to de-risk. Because most foreign investors sometimes, when they invest in a company, what actually matters to them is that when they get their dividend, it's difficult to also get money to buy and remit your money. But we have addressed that issue. We are saying that, look, invest.
And you generally reinvest the money back into the business?
Oh, all our business. Because if you look at Dangote Industries, right from inception to date, we have never ever paid any dividend. if we are going to get dividend, we only get it from companies that we listed. But companies that are wholly owned by Dangote Industries, which they are not listed, we never ever take a dime out of the company.
What's the difference between thinking big and thinking too big?
What is the difference between thinking big? Because if you think big, you grow big. When you think small, you don't grow at all. So you have to, first of all, know that the business you are going in is a business that you know in and out. It's like myself and any of the staff, 10 of the topmost staff, when you work them late at night, they will tell you the process of each and every part of our business. So we don't think small because, first of all, we know that the market we're operating, that's big gap.
What is it that foreign investors don't understand when it comes to doing business in Africa?
What they don't really understand, there's one thing that is baffling them, that, okay, fine, if what you are saying is good, how come we Africans are not investing in our own economies? Because the mistakes that we've been making in the past is that we are looking for foreign investors, but foreign investors are only attracted by domestic investors. So, and that's what we are doing today, Nicola, because if you look at it, we are investing heavily. I mean, we don't even take money out of the business. So majority of companies today, I can just mention a few, like ADNOC. We're in a very big discussion with them, and we want to have a very serious partnership in fertilizer, in the oil business, and in any other businesses like infrastructure. People are looking at infrastructure. That's why we're building the biggest, deepest port in Africa, in just about 60 kilometers away from Lagos. So these are the sort of things that we are doing, which I believe now the government also themselves, they realize that, look, for me to deliver on my electorate promises, I have to work with the private sector. So that has actually given us an insurance, because if the government disrupts any of our business, they will be the first ones to suffer before us.
And what needs to happen for the future to be Africa?
A heavy investment in infrastructure, in training, education first, because you have to work with an educated society, of which a lot of the governments, they are putting average of about 15, some of them even 20% of their budget into education. You know, because we have to upskill to make sure that, yes, we are producing the workers that we need for tomorrow.
What are the most promising countries from that point of view?
The promising countries: Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda is small, but it's very, very promising. You have Egypt is promising. Algeria is also promising, even though they are not very open. So there are more than 10 very good countries in Africa that you can go and invest. Ghana is doing extremely well. Côte d'Ivoire, which is, in West Africa, they are doing extremely very well. Even Guinea, today, you look at the mines that was just opened by Rio Tinto, which cost over $20 billion. You know, so people are coming in now, they realize that, yes, Africa is open for business. And people are ready to go into these sectors.
And who is helping Africa with business now? Could you just reflect a bit on China versus the US versus Europe?
Honestly, Nicola, you want me to be very open? And,
Totally.
So it's China. China really have dominated business in Africa.
And how do you
because of the absence of the others.
Yeah. How do you see that?
Well, they are making money.
Yeah.
They are dominating the landscape. And obviously, Africans, even our own governments, they don't joke with China, because China, they put their balance sheet on the table.
So some examples of how China has helped you.
Okay, let me, some of the projects, like in cement, like some of the things that we do, purchase of their equipments and co., they give you a supplier's credit backed by their insurance company, which is called Sinosure. Sinosure has invested, to talk about 1.2 trillion in supporting their companies to go abroad and sell their technology, sell their equipment, and giving you a credit of 4 or 5 years. Okay, but if I now go to Italy, for example, and they're asking me to write a check of a power plant of $500 million that I want to, build, and I have one which is also good, might not be even as good as Italy, okay, but the Chinese are saying that no, just give me 20%, the rest I will give you 5 years, financing. Which one are you going to take if you are in my shoes? Obviously, you take the Chinese one, because the Chinese one, it means that I can do more. These ones, they will suck out my cash and I won't be able to do more. So for me to grow that big, I also need to leverage. I'm not going to over leverage, but I need to leverage the business to be able to get to where I want to be. And where we want to be is something very, very, very big. We want to do ports. We are spending $45 billion between 2026 and 2030. So if we are going to, obviously I will lean more to this. But right now, today, I've seen that US is also changing. This time around, when I went to Development Finance Corporation of US, they just got about 208 billion. They are very hungry for infrastructure. They are very hungry for the ports, and they are ready to lend. So with that one, then they are ready for us to now look at them and do more business. I've had the delegation of some people from the House of Reps of, the Assembly of Japan. And what I told them is that, no, Japan you'll be missing for a very long time. And today when you are coming, make sure that you come with your own balance sheet on the table, because we have choices of buying from many other countries. But if you don't really come with that support, I have to go to a country that can give me that support for me to be able to leapfrog to the next level.
Yeah. Are you more patient now than when you were younger?
To tell you the truth, let me be very honest with you, I'm more aggressive now.
Why?
Because I've seen a lot of opportunities that I've never ever knew that they exist.
Wow.
Never. I told people that I've never ever dreamt of my own company. I've been an ambitious person right from childhood, but I've never ever thought of my company being 10% of where we are today. And we still have a lot of, opportunities to go. Because I look at like China. Look at a country, for example, like Singapore. They don't have natural resources. They don't have land. They don't have anything. But they've been able to create something out of nothing.
What do you think is driving you now? You're already the wealthiest guy in Africa.
What is driving me is legacy, actually. It's not about being, richest, because, I don't have too much of needs, that's why, today, okay, I'm restricted. I cannot just do the giving pledge where now I pledge all my wealth to this, in my religion, Islam. It does not allow for that unless if the inheritors agree with you. But I've given now 1/3 of my wealth to the foundation. If anything happens to me now, 1/3 will automatically go to my, foundation. But what is driving me the most is that we have a lot of needs in Africa. And for people like us, for corporations like us, we are the ones that are supposed to provide that leadership in terms of transforming the economies of Africa. If we don't, we will not be able to get support from anywhere. We have been waiting for long for foreign investors to come and invest and actually, show what are the potentials of Africa. But today, we are the ones that will end up showing people that these are the potentials, and that I personally believe, that by doing so, a lot of corporations will join us in funding this massive infrastructure that will make Africa, to be at the next level.
What do you hope your legacy will be?
My legacy will be that I'm one of the ones that actually pioneered, the industrialization of Africa. That's my focus, to make sure that Africa produce what we consume. This is my main focus, and for us to keep pushing, to make sure that we have one common market. I have a group which is called the African Renaissance, and there are quite a lot. Any big guy in Africa, 54 of us were in this group, which we meet physically once in a year in Rwanda, which is Kigali. And we've been supported by a lot of presidents. And I think the more they understand what we are trying to do, the more that we'll achieve. Because nobody can transform our continent but us, we Africans. And that is why we are trying to mobilize all the entrepreneurs to make sure that they join us at different levels. Some will be doing big things, some will be doing medium things, some will be doing, this. And then that one will attract foreign investment. Where now, because we don't have enough to be able to provide and take the continent to the next level.
What is your advice to young African people?
My own advice to young African people is to work hard and also have the belief that the future is greater than the current situation that we're in. That Africa is a promising land, and they should stay at home and make sure that we collectively build our continent rather than just flying out somewhere else.